Hey everybody, you caught me once again working on one of my musicals. I just finished that Hawaiian musical. I needed to add the word suckling pig somewhere in there, and now that that's over, I'm going to be working on musical. It's an autobiography, all right, and I've only got the first part of one song. I don't even have a title for it. I don't have a title for the song or the thing, but this is the first lyrics that I came up with that would describe, kind of how things got started for me as a kid. So here it is, Be Kind. All right, this is the first lyric, so it goes a little something like this. When I was a baby, I had no teeth. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't eat meat. That's all I've got so far. But it's funny that you're here again, because you're about to see another Rob's Never Seen, where we are talking today about the Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Up until recently, this was the only frame of reference I had for that movie.
From now.
Yeah, sure you did.
Bart, don't push him!
I knew it. You're both against me. Well, nobody makes a sap out of Bartholomew J. Simpson.
Quit it! You quit it!
Yeah, The Simpsons. The Simpsons was my frame of reference for one of the most famous movies ever made. So if you have not yet seen this movie, go back and watch it. I believe it's still on HBO Max till the 31st of August, which is real soon. That's tomorrow by my calendar. Otherwise, if you don't even care about spoilers, come on back, watch this. But I would recommend seeing The Treasure of the Sierra Madre before you watch this video. And make sure to like and subscribe and all that jazz. And stick around to the very end, because that little joke will finally pay off. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the video. Bye. Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews, back with our second installment of Rob's Never Seen. And tonight, we're continuing on with Humphrey Bogart films, because I've never seen any of them. And now I can say I've seen two. First Casablanca, now The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. A movie that I've been meaning to see probably not as long as Casablanca, but I've definitely been more interested in seeing this than I ever really was with Casablanca. And so if you're liking what we're doing on the channel, make sure you hit the like button. If you're not a subscriber, make sure you become a subscriber. To anybody that's new, welcome. Anybody that's returning, welcome back. How you doing? So I think I like this. I don't know. I would really have to ponder this, because Casablanca was really good. It had some really good moments, but I think Casablanca is probably, I like it a little bit more, but only because the length was shorter than this. I was enjoying The Treasure of the Sierra Madre like all the way through, and there were parts that I just felt like it was just too long, and it definitely didn't need to go on as long as it did, and there were some parts that just kind of just went on too long, like I'm saying, but I was riveted. I can't say that about the entirety of Casablanca. I spent a good chunk of that just kind of wondering like motivations and things like that. As far as acting goes, I think that this has some... I think Casablanca has probably slightly better acting, but this has a like a single better performance than in Casablanca, and that's from coming from the man who won Best Supporting Actor, the father of the director, Walter Huston, who plays Howard in this. I thought he was probably better than anybody in both Casablanca and this. I think he stands out, and it shows why he won Best Supporting Actor, even though he's in the whole film. I kept waiting for his character, spoilers for this movie, so like the intro says, go watch this movie and then come back and talk about it, because we're going to talk about the whole thing. We're going to assume that a lot of people have seen this movie. So anyway, yeah, he was the guy who plays Howard in this is really good. I think Claude Rains in Casablanca is really good. Everybody's really good in Casablanca, really, but I think Walter's performance in this was really, really solid. It is, like, when you think of Best Supporting Actor roles, I was thinking about that. He performs that perfectly, even though he's in the entire movie. Like, some of the quintessential supporting actor roles, I feel like he nailed what that means. And if you want to, like, if I had to, like, now add an actor to great supporting actor roles, this would definitely be it. I was really impressed, and one of the things that I'm happy about doing this is being impressed and definitely feeling way better about watching some of these movies than I initially was, because like I've said before, I'm not a big fan of old Hollywood. But so far, I've got 2 of 2. I'm 2 for 2 in movies that I'm really glad that I'm finally watching. So, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre came out January 6th of 1948. And to put that into perspective, I was like, in less than 10 years, my mom is going to be born. and in less than 10 years also, like in like 6 years, my stepdad's going to be born. And I was like, damn. So, like, when they're 10, this movie isn't even... When my stepdad turns 10, this movie isn't even 20 years old. And then I started putting things into perspective of people that are born, like, it's 2021, right? There's kids that are born here in Fight Club's, like, 22 years old. And I'm like, fuck. Like, I don't know. That's how I put it into perspective for myself. But this one, Best Director, I want to make sure I pull this up right here. I had it under. So this one, Best Writing, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Directing. This did not win Best Picture, but the Best Screenplay, yeah, it's a pretty decent screenplay. I don't know if it's as good as Casablanca, but it's pretty good. As far as dialogue, I think Casablanca's got some really great lines. This has some solid ones too. It really does. Both of them. It's hard to compare these two, especially because they're so vastly different movies. But this is written and directed by John Huston, who passed in '87. If you don't know who John Huston is, he's been in everything. He had his big toe in everything for a long time. But for like people like nerds, like he played Gandalf in the Hobbit cartoons, the Ralph Bakshi stuff. I think his last movie was Prizzi's Honor in 1987, right before he passed, with Jack Nicholson and Kathleen Turner. But he's acted in like over 50 movies. He's directed a ton, and I looked at him. He's cameoed in the beginning of this movie as this guy who Bogey keeps getting money from because he's begging for money, and he keeps giving him money. And you know who he reminded me? He reminded me of Max von Sydow when he was young. He had that kind of tall, and just, I don't know, the way he kind of talked and carried himself, it just really made me think of like a young Max von Sydow. But he's in this just briefly. There's a few cameos in this movie. Let's get to the other one. There's like, one's Ann Sheridan. She plays the like girl, I think, on McCormick's arm. And then more famously is Robert Blake. In this, it's a famous cameo from a soon-to-be infamous actor. I want to say at this point, Robert Blake plays the little Latino boy that gets Dobbs, played by Humphrey Bogart, to buy a lottery ticket from him. Yeah, so there's that. Another standout in this, I mean, look, to talk about the cast, I mean, you've got Walter Huston, Humphrey Bogart, Tim Holt, Alfonso Bedoya, Bruce Bennett, John Huston, Barton McLean, Robert Blake, Margarito Luna, Jose Torve, Manuel Donde, Arturo Soto Rangel, Pat Flaherty, Jack Holt, Clifton Young, Spencer Chan, Julian Rivero, I don't want to mispronounce, Ralph Dunn, Roberto Canedo, and Jacqueline Dahlia. Again, I like mentioning all these people because they're pretty much all past now. In fact, a couple of stories about people that are in this movie. Well, Bruce Bennett, who plays Cody, he passed in 2007, and he was just a couple of months shy of his 101st birthday, and he was in 1928 a star shot putter for the 1928 Olympics. And another, there's this tragic story that I just kind of read about that's just kind of sad. And one of the actors, Clifton Young, he died in I think it was 1951, and he died in a hotel fire that he started because he fell asleep smoking. Shit. I mean, you hear it happening, you hear that kind of death happen, and shit, there you go. So anyway, I've talked a lot about all the things kind of peripheral to this and everything, and I didn't know what to expect really from this movie. I've heard things about it. I knew it was based on a book. I know that there are multiple references in a lot of things. I remember there's a Simpsons Treehouse of Horror where it's called Three Men in a Comic Book, where they get the Radioactive Man comic book and they're in the treehouse and they all end up fighting each other for it. It's Milhouse, Bart, and I believe Martin, and they all kind of go crazy over it. And so this is this is classic, and I didn't realize how classic it was. I didn't really have a full appreciation of it. And when I would bring this movie up, people would be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." Apparently, again, I'm one of the last people to see this movie amongst people who know movies. And I gotta say, like I said, I'm really, really happy that this really surprised me how much I liked it. So, again, and also, we were talking in our chat, it was brought up, that this was one of the few films that was filmed, a lot of it filmed on location at the time in the, outside of the United States. So this thing had a lot going for it. And I remember that it was said that John Huston was had the rights to this, the Warner Brothers had the rights for this, couldn't film it because Huston had to go overseas to fight in World War II. He became a World War II documentarian, and he had to, but since they had Humphrey Bogart and everything back, and he'd been making a lot of movies with Bogart. In fact, I was looking at that IMDb thing, and it shows he worked on a lot of things. He's going to also be in he's also the director of the next movie we're going to be talking about, which is The Maltese Falcon, that's in 41. So they had him locked up, and so they had all this stuff, but it's basically everybody had to get out of the war to make this movie. So let's get into this. So again, I was really impressed with all the acting. Humphrey Bogart does a complete 180 from Rick from Casablanca, and I love that. I'm so glad that I wasn't gonna get I don't know, some actors, even today, right, get typecast, and they, you can do 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 10 movies, where you're just kind of doing the same thing. A lot of actors get typecasted. This definitely was a different change of pace, and I know that Bogey started his career, I think, as mostly playing a heavy, and then it turned into, later on. But that's a lot of people. A lot of people start their careers in doing whole different things, and then somewhere down the line they get a chance to do something better. I mean, look at Bob Odenkirk. He started out in sketch comedy, and then, just he would be here and there, and he's funny and he's great, and then all of a sudden he's in Breaking Bad, and now he's in Better Call Saul, and then Nobody this year, one of the best movies of this year, and that's is starring Bob Odenkirk as a badass ex-military, cleaner or accountant. No, what did he say? I'm not reviewing Nobody, but you know what I'm saying. So you just never know, like, where your career is gonna start. Like when actors start their careers and stuff. Everybody has a place that they begin at, and this is just interesting. I love this role for him because he's the exact opposite of Rick. You know, he's this character that thinks he's a good man, and like you could say that he kind of is supposed to be anybody who thinks that they're just, I'm good. I'm just down on my luck, and if I got a chance to have some money, it's all about the guy. I'm totally fine. I could totally get a whole bunch of gold and just be like, it's not going to change me or any of that. And I'm sure many of we've seen many of people go down that road. I mean, if I suddenly had a bunch of money, would I necessarily be the same person? I don't know. I'd like to think so, but you just don't know. Another interesting thing I liked about this is when you talk about the setting of this movie. I think it takes place in like 1925. So we're in the middle of the Great Depression, right? And I was just trying to put myself in these characters' shoes and what was going on in the world and what would bring these people here. And it's that desperation. They're like, where do you go? Remember in the movie Seabiscuit, a lot of people were going south of the border to, in that movie they showed them like, doing horse races, and that's where you could go and get booze and everything else. But also people were looking for new opportunities that they couldn't find anywhere else. And here you've got Humphrey Bogart, like, trying to, all these people that go wherever to try to find work, money, treasure, any kind of success that they can get. They're people that were selling their, like, wherever they had to go. I'm saying desperate people, desperate times make people do desperate things. And you've got this guy down there in Tampico, which I thought was interesting because the only thing I ever knew, I didn't know Tampico was a city. I know U.S. geography better than global. Well, better than south of the border. I know North American geography better than South American and Central American geography. So all I knew about Tampico was that it's a really sugary juice that I sell at my job. So now I know better. Learning. So he's down in Tampico with like not a penny to his name. He's begging for money from, hey, can you help an American out? And I think that had to be something else. That had to be used. I feel like that had to be used. Like, I remember Bugs Bunny cartoons like, hey there, can you spare a few cents to help a fellow American out? I wonder if that's from this. You've got Clifton Young, who I am not, or Tim Holt, I should say, who I'm not familiar with at all. Famous character actor. I guess he's really big in Westerns, who plays Curtin. Really liked this guy. I really, really liked him. He was the guy that's kind of along for the ride and he gets staked by Dobbs, his character, played by Humphrey Bogart, and they're all partners. And you meet Howard's character, played by Walter Huston, and he's the old prospector who seems a little bit nuts but pretty nice, and everybody, this trio of guys just really, really clicked with me. You've got the old coot. You got the guy down on his luck that's desperate but seems all right. But there is something already off about Dobbs right from the beginning. But it's bogey. So I was thinking, man, okay, how bad could this get? And then you got Curtin, who's just quiet and kind of just going along with things. It seems pretty decent. And again, all these guys like have their quirks, but they seem okay. Like they don't seem like killers or anything like that. Although the way Bogey handled the little Latin kid, where he just throws the water in his face for talking to him, you could already tell like that there was something off. But I while I was watching this as well, I was trying to put myself in a 1948 theater. What would a movie like this be like, sitting in that darkened theater in 1948? It's not even 1950s. We're barely out of World War II. And just seeing that, like, this would be, I don't know. This would be really epic. And it was epic, epically long, but it was pretty epic. It had to be, like, huge. I don't know. I always try to do that now when I watch these movies. But a lot of this, right from the get-go, because I knew it's about the treasure and stuff. I actually thought it was about a treasure map. I actually thought it was going to be about buried treasure that they're out there looking for. It was like some sort of actual tangible thing, like, you know, because when they were out like walking in the desert and in the jungle and stuff, I actually, and when I would hear that, like the the noises of the birds and stuff, all I kept thinking about was Raiders of the Lost Ark and Indy walking through the jungle looking for some sort of, you know, treasure, something tangible, something to pick up. And they get all the way out there and they're out far. They're really out far. And again, like the way that they played all of this, the way it looked, the way it felt, you could really feel the journey that they took to get out there, and how even like as they're getting out there, you know, the desperation when they find the fool's gold and they think they've already struck it rich and they're already just kind of in the water around, like, you know, like they're like Curtin and Dobbs are just already kind of like Dobbs even more than Curtin, of course, because Dobbs like starts to lose it like right away. He's the one that's temper. Like he starts to yell at Howard right away. Like not too far into this thing where you just go, oh, this is going to be the troublemaker. But once they get going, you know, they seem at first to be like, all right, you know. But they talk about right away off the whole idea that the thought of gold, you know, when they even before they even get out there, you know, Howard's talking about the urge for more. There's never enough. No matter how much money you get, you start out with 10, and you can get 20, and then 25, and or you lose it. You want to go back to get more. You know, you get a taste of it, and that everyone's money gets involved, and that gold changes a man's soul. Also need to point out briefly the situation that they were in before they went on this trek, where Curtin and Dobbs get work from this guy named McCormick, and he's like, I'm going to pay you $8 a day American. Even for that time, I was suspicious of that. And they go out there and they work for the man, right? They go out there far and do labor for this man, and then they come all the way back and the guy just dips. He disappears. He does not pay them. And then when they finally track him down, or not track him down, they just see him on the street, and then they track him down to get their money for him. You know, they're actually justified to get their money from him. And there's a really decent fight in the bar that I really liked. It really felt desperate. It felt like one guy caught and just trying to get out of it, and the other two just, we can't leave this bar without nothing. And I didn't know how that fight was going to go. And it was just really, like, really impressive, because I'm usually really put off by, like, really fake old fighting, where they just, but this felt like real in a lot of ways. And they filmed it where, yeah, a lot of punches don't look real, but in this it just kind of, there was weight to it, emotional weight to it, that gave it more legitimacy that I don't usually feel in those kind of situations and from this time period. But it's important to talk about that part because of the idea that Dobbs thinks he's a good person and he's not like a guy like McCormick. And when they get their money from him, they only take what he owed them, and they throw the rest back at him. And they also pay the bar. And it's like they start out like he wants to really seem like, I'm good. Like as they're going on this trip, they're getting ready to like try to put their money together for this trip, and they get the money they pay, and then they find out that, you know, Dobbs finds out he wins the lottery, and he gets some more money. It's like, we're gonna stake it, and they're all like in on it. But it's like as soon as they get out there, it is immediate, the desperation on Dobbs to just screw over. He's going to screw them over. You can feel it right from the get-go. I almost feel like they know it too. They just think that it's never going to get that bad. But it gets bad. It's like, it gets bad really quickly. You know, there's I'll say one thing that bothered me. There was a few musical shifts that kind of jarred me, where it was like, kind of got into like almost like silly sounding music, where it's just a little too light, where it goes from this heavy sound to all of a sudden, and the, you know, like, we're in the mountains, and I'm like, no. Okay, so they find their claim, right? They find a little dust. They're about to lose it. Of course, that's at the right moment where they actually find the gold. And they stake their claim without making a claim, right? They're out there in the middle of nowhere. They're working on the slide. They don't want anyone to know they're out there, because as soon as anybody else finds out, if a corporate, if somebody can go and tell a company, the company's going to come out there with paperwork saying they bought the land, you can't be out there. But you got the threat of bandits, you got the threat of anybody that comes out there and wants to take it, that has the will to take it from them, they can't. And so they're trying to have a low profile. But as soon as they get to, like, enough to where they're dividing, like, they're weighing out the gold dust, and as soon as Bogey brings up dividing up each person's share as we go along, I knew that this was already the beginning of the end. And there was always, like, these reasonable arguments for everything, but there's also arguments against, like, he doesn't trust them. It's already sleeping with one eye open kind of situation. He's the first guy that goes running and hiding in the jungle to bury his share of things. And I was them watching the weight get buried, or get weighed out. And the other two are just, like, always kind of just like, I'm fine, yeah, let's just do it. Let's just do, like, if we say no to this guy, he's just going to make shit difficult, because they've already seen him just snap and get pissed off and get accusatory. I mean, there's a scene where, because he staked Curtin, and Curtin, he's like, I could always, take part more than you get because I staked it. And Curtin goes and gets him his money out of his own gold dust. He's like, look, I don't want you to be able to hold this over my head. And Dobbs just throws it on the ground. He's like, I just don't like being called a hog. And it's like, one of the people in the chat kept mentioning, and they were right, is he spends the whole movie projecting. If you want an example, he's like the former orange-faced prick that was around for, the last 4-ish years, who would claim somebody else was doing something that he was doing. I'm not the pig, you're the pig, when he's the pig. It's just, he was always trying to make everybody else feel like they're the ones that have the problem and not him. And it's like nobody actually accused him of anything. He's just trying to jump to, like, well, that's what you mean, that's what you're going to say. And those kind of people are dangerous. And that's one of the reasons why I love his performance so much, because he is just one little look the wrong way to killing anybody here. And I didn't see that in Casablanca. And some people you could say, and if somebody were to tell me that they watched this and they thought that Bogey's performance was a little chewing the scenery a little bit, maybe a little too over the top, I could see that. But he was so into it. He was so... He became this guy. He let himself go there. I mean, the way he let himself, dirty, and his hair just, and the way that he allowed himself to look wild. He looked absolutely wild in the eyes, which is why I kind of went with that for my thumbnail. I wanted to look kind of wild and nuts, because he just really goes for it. And so I can forgive a little bit of the over-the-top stuff, because he really went for it. And I totally respect it, because he's that total contrast to, like, what Howard is, who is kooky but sensible and has wise things to say throughout the whole thing about, like, especially when he talks about, like, trustworthiness versus honesty. He makes some, like, really, really good points, like when he was talking about, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember how he put it. It's anyway. It was a long movie and a lot of notes. Even when they bring up, like, how much should we say, how much should we pile up before we leave? And they say 25, and he's like, nah, 50, 75,000, But they're already, like, he's planning on never, like, leaving until he wants to get out. I mean, you got the whole scene with the Gila monster where he's, you know, drawing the guns on his own guys and seeing that the Gila monster was there, them calling him yellow. You know, he just kind of pushing him a little bit further, but even when he's faced with the truth, it just for him makes him feel like they're mocking me. Still, he won't even admit that he made a mistake. And just the level of paranoia. The level of paranoia that he hits in this movie, it's palpable. And it's scary for the other people in the film. I actually thought that they were all going to turn on each other. I thought this was going to be like a three-way, like, insanity, when it's really just all Dobbs. Everything else that the other guys are doing is thought out and rational, and they weigh things out, and that's when we have to get, like, to the character of Cody. Right? Because the contrast, like, because Bogey's already talking to himself, like, the whole time. And he, you know, they have the argument of who's going to go, and eventually Curtin goes down to the village because you can't argue with Dobbs' character anymore. He's just freaking out. If I go, this happens. If I stay, this happens. It's like, he's just gone nuts. He's gone crazy. And in town, Curtin finds this guy named Cody, who is played by that actor I was talking about, Bruce Bennett, the one from the Olympics and the one who died just shy of his 101st birthday. And, I mean, I called him the obvious criminal, and God, was I wrong. But they set him up to be that way. It makes you feel like he's the guy that's like, oh, I see that you're, you know, an American, and oh, you're going up out there, and hey, I wonder what you do out there. Like, oh yeah, I couldn't be looking for gold, would you? Just like, hey, take me with you, take me with you. And I'm like, this is the character that you set up that is just going to, well, first off, if he goes out there, Dobbs will kill him, right? I mean, it's like, Curtin doesn't want him to go out there because of that kind of reason. Also, I mean, and there's also the part of it where he doesn't want to share their wealth, but he doesn't want to hurt that guy. He doesn't want that guy to go out there and get hurt, because there's really only one thing that's going to happen if he does. And when he just shows up, I do like that he was like just right there in their camp. Like, I thought he was going to be like, they were going to be like, there he is out on the ridge. We got a couple of days, but he'll be here eventually. No, he's there already. This part also made me think of Danny Boyle's The Beach. When, once everybody gets to, spoilers for Danny Boyle's The Beach, once everybody gets to the beach in that said movie, and there's other people that follow DiCaprio, and they're just kind of looking, going, oh, here they come. How long do you think we got before they move from this island to that island? And just the paranoia that they felt and the fear that they felt of somebody coming. That's what it made me think of. So Cody gets there, and I mean, it's awkward to say the least. But you still feel like this guy is put here in the movie to put them in a situation where it's him or them. He wants gold. They have only one option. I don't know why he's pushing so hard. If I'm him, I'd be like, I shouldn't, like, once I get the feeling that they might kill me, I felt like, what's this guy's desperation? Like, is he just some criminal? And when they decide the next day that they're going to kill him, all together, every single one, well, I don't know if Howard decides, but Curtin says he's for killing him, which was a kind of a surprise to me. When he says for, I was like, whoa, okay. I thought this was going to be an argument. When they go to kill him, and Bennett's like, there's bandits here. When they have to fight the bandits, Bennett and, you know, or Cody's character, played by Bennett, dies, helping them defend their claim, even though they were about to kill him. This also brings the scene that I had no idea until today was in here. I did not know that we don't need to show you our stinking badges, because it's, yes, the cliched line is actually not true. They don't say, we don't need no stinking badge. They say it in a roundabout way, but this is that movie that's been used over and over and over and over in other things. I know it from UHF, where the guy says badgers. We don't need no stinking badgers. But it's also been in a ton of other things. And that's this movie. Didn't know that. Learning new things still. I love it. But the bandits come, and that was a scene that I was kind of like, I don't know, it felt a little cheesy, but whatever. And I started getting paranoid a little bit with the characters, like, because the bandits get chased out by federales, and all I can think is, well, if the federales catch any of these bandits, if the bandits want to save their lives, all they have to do is say, hey, there's some gringos up on the mountain, digging out the gold that should be yours and ours, and if I take you there, we can get that gold from them. Just let me go. So I was starting to think like that myself, and there's a few times in this movie where I actually started thinking people were against them, and I was seeing the negative, and I was wrong every single time. And I just, like, what does that say? Like, I wasn't for Dobbs's character, but I was like thinking about what this does, what the gold does, what money does, and how all these other characters potentially could come and try to take it from them. So Cody dies, and then they find the letter. And this is, again, where this character is, we get that subversion where you think he's, or at least I did, that he's just another guy out for himself. And he's out there, and he is, kind of, but he had a family, and he was out there trying to desperately, he'd done research, he was smart, he knew where to find gold, he knew things about the area, he had done his research, and he was telling his wife that if this doesn't work out this time, he's finally going to come home. And, well, now he's never coming home because he met these guys. He went up after them looking for gold, looking for treasure, looking for fortune, looking for some kind of opportunity, something to help his family in a depression. He was just another guy trying to do the right thing by his family, and he paid the price. It's just a shitty situation for the guy. So they finally decide to quit, and that was another thing, because, like, I realized around this time, I was like, man, they haven't even been prospecting. They've just been having to protect their claim. But once the bandits go, Cody's dead, they end up going right back to work, where each of them end up with $35,000 in gold each. And they decide to leave, and I was surprised because I thought that the movie was going to go on, like them out there in the middle of nowhere, just keep digging and getting more and more, because it, like Howard said, like, once you're out there and you start getting some, you wouldn't want to stop. But they do stop. In fact, Dobbs seems reasonable. He's like, you know what? Let's just get out of here. Let's go. And they do. And I'm like, okay, but this can't be how the movie ends, because I kind of know where this is headed. But Dobbs' sudden change of heart kind of made me think, wow, okay, so what's the real end game to this? Well, it starts because, everybody's taking their own pace, and how they create more conflict was kind of interesting. Well, first they talk about giving Cody's widow, a fourth of their money, and it gave me, I think, my favorite line in the movie when they both say that they're going to do it, and he's like, what, are you both born in a revival meeting? I loved that line, but that's just because I personally found a revival joke really funny. But how they create the next bit of drama for the rest of the movie is these four guys walk out of the desert, and I kind of feel like this was stretching it a little bit, just to me, because they say, well, you're near a village and they just kind of know you're out there, which I do buy that, but they come out there looking to these guys to come back and help one of their kids that's really sick. And Howard leaves, and I thought, well, that's the end of Howard. Wrong. Again, I was wrong. I was like, these guys are going to go out and kill him, maybe because they want to they want to separate these guys, or maybe get them away or somewhere where they can get their guard down and take what they have. But they don't. They actually do have a sick kid, and he actually fixes the kid. And they're so grateful. And there's like a ton of people, this whole village, for this kid. I thought, man, this is the most popular kid in the entire world. I wouldn't have this many people standing over me waiting, to see if I wasn't dead. But Howard, they end up, after he fixes the kid, they come and find them, and they're like, we want you to come back to our village. Except they only want Howard. They don't really care if Curtin or Dobbs comes with. So Howard goes off on his own, And they say, we'll keep your money and we'll meet you in Durango. But as soon as they, get out on the trail again, and Dobbs is like, he wanted us to do the heavy lifting for him, and we should just cut him out of the whole deal. Let's just take the money. It's ours. We won't even go to Durango. Because he made us do all the work, He's completely forgotten about partnership and equal shares and everything else. And this is where Dobbs just completely turns on Curtin. And again, he's just standing there, such menace, and saying, we'll see who falls asleep first. And eventually he does get the drop on Curtin, and you think, again, this movie fooled me. Because he goes off screen, and you hear 2 gunshots, and only Dobbs walks back. And then he gets the idea in his head, the paranoia in his head, like, did I get him? Or did he just fall down when I fired at him? And he goes out there, and he sees him, and he's laying there in the ground, and he's like, he appears dead. And he leaves him, and he just keeps going on. Maybe I should bury him. Should I bury him in the morning? Do I take his clothes? I don't know. And he's just spending the whole night freaked out and talking about his conscience and how the ways of, how having a conscience is great, but at not having a conscience, what does that do to you? And he's having all this, out loud discussion. And again, this is why the screenplay is so good. And Curtin, though, manages to wake up and crawl away, and he finds some villagers. And you find Howard, not only is he not dead, not only is he just not just helping, he's living it up. They are treating him like a king. So when they bring Curtin to him, he fixes up Curtin. He is just literally, he's a medicine man in this village. He got what he wanted. He has himself set up. He doesn't even need the money now. But they go after Dobbs, who's now running through the desert with the burros, trying to get back to Durango on his own. And he ends up running into the bandits that they fought earlier. He tries to play it off that it's not him. And it's just this set, and when he finds the water and you can just see the caked dust and dirt in Bogey's hair and that desperation, that wild look, and just he's got nothing left and he's all by himself, and he's by himself because he put himself in this situation. And he's kind of turning into a guy like McCormick, who would screw over everybody else for his own good. And this is the kind of guy that he would have fought earlier. But did he only fight that guy to make himself look better in front of Curtin? Was all of this just still more theater? Was Dobbs ever a good person? Maybe. Before whatever got him down to Mexico in the first place? Maybe. But Dobbs finds himself with the bandits, and he tries to shoot him, and the gun doesn't even go off, and it's curtains for old Dobbs and Humphrey Bogart's character, and they kill him with machetes. I mean, we don't see it, but when they show up in the village later wearing his clothes, and when they chase down the burros, and they find the gold, but they don't know it's gold. They think it's sand, and they just throw it everywhere. I visibly had a actual physical reaction to seeing the gold just get spread out like that for all the work that they did. I didn't realize I was going to feel as strongly as I did. I was like, oh man, oh wow, it's just all gone. And this is where I felt like the movie kind of just dragged on a little bit too long. I feel like the guys, if they had just caught up to the bandits here, where they just rolled, said, where's the gold, and it's everywhere and blows around, and then a dust storm kind of shoots up. That's where the movie should have ended. But instead we had this kind of longer part where the bandits take the burros back to the village where they got the burros in the beginning of the movie. And we have this long, them looking, they're caught, but they don't know they're caught. The villagers know that they've got the burros with the brand from the guy that sold them. And so that just kind of keeps going and going, and we even see them get shot and executed and buried. And then finally they arrive and they have them take them out to where it is, to where the sacks are supposed to be. So Curtin and Howard are out there trying, and it's the middle of a dust storm, and it's all gone, and Howard just kind of, he's not gone insane, but he's absolutely laughing kind of crazily about how that's it. This is just one big cruel joke. You know, everything that we had, the mountain is taking it back. You know, 10 months of labor and suffering, and this is where we end up. And, you know, they ask, you know, what's next? He's like, I'm a medicine man, and he tells Curtin to, like, go see the widow and, you know, come back and see me sometime when I'm down here, you know, we'll party, whatever. And that's the end of it. And it's just, you know, they say easy come, easy go, right? But nothing was easy in the coming to get all this money from them. None of it was easy, you know. It took a long time to get out there. It was a long journey to get the money. But then once they had it, it was pretty easy to just see it all. Like, I mean, it just all disappeared like nothing. Like, all their work meant nothing. And now they're just left right where they started, except for Howard, who's got everything he could possibly need. So that's The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. I've talked about this longer than I even talked about Casablanca, so I guess that says how much I liked it. And I can't wait to talk to you guys next about the Maltese Falcon. I am really excited to see Sam Spade. Never seen a Sam Spade movie, but we're continuing our Humphrey Bogart section of these Rob's Never Seen. And so if you liked this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. If, for like some kind of sadist, you just watched this whole thing thinking, maybe I'll turn it around, maybe I'll change the way I thought about this review, and you just didn't get there and you wish you'd never watched the whole thing, well, we can give you a better memory and give you about the last 45 minutes of your life back. So if you liked it, please put on shades. If you have a light problem, sensitivity to that kind of thing, please hit the floor. Otherwise, look right here and we'll give you a better memory. See you on the next Rob's Never Seen. Maybe this memory will be a little bit better than the last 45 minutes that you spent here. Peace out, everybody.
This is a song. I wrote off my first album and goes something like this. When I was a baby, I had no taste. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't eat meat.